So basically for this particular course, during the first half of the semester, you will learn about Python grammar. Meaning to say, the word grammar here means it is a way of you constructing your command in order to deliver the instruction. So meaning to say, let's say if you have a servant next to you, and then it depends on how you communicate with your servant. So your servant is like a superpower guy, but he or she will obey your commands. So meaning to say, when you ask him, let's say if he's a guy, let's say if you ask him to do something, pick up the shoes, and then it is a kind of instruction to be given to that particular guy, your servant, and then he will pick up that information, and then he will execute the order. So in order to transfer the information from your brain into your servant's brain, basically you have to use a language. You have to use a language. So for us, we tend to use Malay language or the English language or the Chinese or the Indians or Tamil. So it is actually a kind of wording. It is a collection of verbs and nouns that you use in your everyday life, so that you are able to tell something to the other person. So it has to be your wording or your information has to be constructed, has to be delivered in a specific way, in a not formal, it should be delivered in a specific way. So meaning to say, if you are using the Malay language, then there has to be a certain grammar. You have to say, tolong ambil kasut itu, please pick up the shoes. You are not going to say, shoes, pick up them. It is grammatically incorrect, am I right? So it has to be done in a certain way. There is a specific grammar for you to be able to do that. So now that's the idea. So now you have your computer as your servant instead of a human, no? So instead of a human, you have the computer as your servant. So your computer only knows a certain set of languages. It won't be able to communicate in English or in Malay or in Arabic or in Tamil. So supposedly it will have some sort of a certain language where you can use that particular language, and then you construct the commands, and then you give a set of instruction to your computer. Okay? Yeah. So that's the idea. So meaning to say, now you are using Python as your language. Of course, we have C++, we have the Visual Basic. You know, Visual Basics, it is actually a language that you can use for creating a Windows program. So in the Visual Basic, and then we have the C#, we have the Swift code, which is belong to the Apple, and then we have the JavaScript, we have the Java. So things like that. Those are languages. Those are computer languages. Okay, now when as I said to you, you are going to use Python to deliver the instruction and then give the instruction to your computer. So it has to be done in a specific way. It has to be done, you have to know the grammar. Okay, when you are trying to construct the code using Python, and then you want to deliver that code to your computer, so it has to be in a certain set of rules. Huh? Okay, so now for the first half of the semester, I am going to teach you the basics of these rules on how to write down the code, how to construct the wording in Python. So I hope that you will enjoy the class, and that's it. So first of all, the objective of this particular course is to introduce the basic concepts of Python language grammar, the algorithm development. So meaning to say, when you are trying to solve something, let's say if I ask you to compute the value of pi, which is 3.141, blah, 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 blah. So in order to obtain the value of pi, you have to do something. You have to construct an algorithm. An algorithm means a set of instruction to solve a problem. Let's say if you want to let's say if you want to make a delicious Milo drink, huh? So you cannot just simply put the Milo without any rules, no? Just put maybe 5 spoons of Milo and then you put like one can of milk. So it doesn't work like that. Am I right? So it has to be in a certain rule in order to have the perfect taste. So if you want to do a delicious Milo drinks, then you have to, let's say, put two spoonful of Milo, and then you put 3 spoons of milk, okay, the condensed milk. So that's the idea. And as well as the computational methods. So of course, you are going to learn something related to root finding algorithm. I'm wondering why the subtitle is not coming out. So let me try and check this. Yeah, it's okay, never mind. I think it's the issues of PowerPoint. It is not picking up my voice. Okay. And then next, you also gonna be learning about the programming techniques of manipulation, of data manipulation and visualization of data. So because when you want to do when you want to solve physics problems, sometimes you have to use many data, many sets of data, and then you have to store these data into your computer. And at some point, you need to visualize the data. Let's say if you want to study about the wind direction and the magnitude and direction of the wind in Penang. So you have to divide the Penang area into smaller chunks, and then those chunks will be represented by a vector, okay, having a direction of the wind, and then also the magnitude, which is the the strength of the wind speed, for example. So you have to store them into a file, and then you have to do something. And then at some point, you need to visualize the data. You want to see, where does the wind go, over here or over here? So at which particular region has the highest density of wind? So you have to visualize your data. So you won't be able to read the numbers. What you need to do is you need to pass your data into your Python language so that you can use your Python language to give the instruction to the computer to plot the graph, to do something to your data, things like that. So first of all, for those who never encountered computational physics before, because of course I understood that you are from your Asasi or your foundation, as well as your matriculation, and then some of you guys are from, from the overseas. I'm not sure about the details on the curriculum there, but here in Malaysia we have the matriculation, and then I suppose in the overseas they also have matriculation, and then we have the foundation. And then we have the STPM. So STPM is the tingkatan 6 lah. Okay, so I'm not sure whether you guys have learned computational physics before. Maybe some of you guys are quite enthusiastic, and then you went through the books, and then you just learned by yourself. So it is a good move. So don't worry. So computational physics means you are computing something in order to obtain some sort of output. So you want to know, you have your physics problem, and then you try to solve the problem. So normally, if I ask you to solve the mass and acceleration problem, I mean the Newton's second law. So of course, we have the mass and acceleration together, and then you have your mass as a number, and then you also have your acceleration as a vector, and then you do the scalar multiplication. You know the scalar multiplication, a constant multiplied with a vector. So that's the scalar multiplication. So you do that easily. So that is what we call analytic. It is something that can be simply calculated by using formulae. Yeah, formulae. Formulae, formulae, which is the plural form of formula. So you can have as many formulae as you wanted to. Let's say if you have the formula to calculate the force, you have F equals to ma. You have the formula to calculate the momentum of a car moving at a certain speed. Then you have your m, the mass of the car, multiplied with the velocity of the car. So those are the analytical situation. But nowadays, as you grow up older, and then as the time progresses, nowadays we are living in the millennium. So yeah, the physics problems are getting harder and harder. So when back in the 100 and 200 years ago, the physics are quite simple. They tend to have a simple problem. Maybe Newton's, he was trying to solve an apple that dropped on his head. So it is actually a simple physics. But this is just a disclaimer, yeah? Gravity is not something simple. But meaning to say, what I'm trying to say is that, I mean, the scope of the physics, the scope is simple. But nowadays, we have more and more new technologies, okay? Especially, for example, like in nuclear energy, for example, back in 50 years ago, they focused on a simple reactor, which is actually a sphere uranium, which is a spherical uranium structure. So, I mean, the physics is simple because the geometry itself is a simple geometry, which is a sphere. And then as the time progresses, when things are getting more complicated, and then, you know, the nuclear reactor itself consists of many parts, and then the simple physics won't be able to solve the problem. So what we have is that we try to improvise the idea, the existing idea, but then we are not able to compute using the analytical formula. So there will be no more formula to solve the problem, but instead we have our computer, and then we ask our computer to do the simulation, stuff like that. For example, I just want to give you an example. Okay, in nuclear physics or in reactor physics, normally the physicists, they will always try to count the number of neutrons inside a particular reactor. Okay, so since the reactor is becoming more complicated as the technology improvises, then the problem is becoming more harder. So usually back in 50 to 60 years ago, the problem is just a simple geometry, and then they can construct the differential equation, and then you solve the differential equation, and then you have an analytical solution. So I'm not sure whether you guys have heard about differential equation before, but it is an equation, and then when you solve the equation, you will obtain a formula describing the problem. But nowadays things are getting complicated. When you try to construct the equation for the complicated problem, then your formula itself the equation itself is very complicated. Okay, then in order to solve that particular complicated equation, then you need to do something. You cannot use the simple mathematics. To me, mathematics is just a language which has no meaning. I mean, you can read the physical meaning behind some formula, for example, mass time acceleration, you can say that the higher the acceleration, then the bigger the force. For example, that's how you read your formula, and then you try to make some inference from your formula. But when you go further, you will discover that sometimes mathematics itself is just a language to express the behavior of the physics. But the physics itself is unknown. For example, this is something interesting, okay? For example, you know the neutron pula, apa ni, yeah, the Newton's gravitational law, okay? You know the equation, the uppercase G equals to the mass of the sun multiplied with the mass of the earth divided by the distance between the two planets to the power of 2, that particular equation. So that equation is just an empirical formula. So it has no physical meaning behind that. So that's the reason why we have Einstein. He tried to describe gravity in much more details using his general relativity. So that's the reason why I'm telling you that in the previous physicists, they only solve simple problems. But nowadays, things are getting complicated. That's why you need the computational physics. So in order to succeed in computational physics, in order to become a computational physicist, you need to know the math. You have to be very literate with math. You need to know the vectors. You need to know, when you go in a higher level, you need to know like sparse matrix. Or, have you heard about sparse matrix? SPARSE, sparse matrix. Well, basically, sparse matrix is something. It's a large matrix, consists of many zeros, and then you also need to know the Hermitian matrix. You need to know the Jacobian matrix, and then you need to know what else. You need to know the partial differential equation. So you need to be able to use the math. Mathematics is important in our life. And then of course, you need to know physics, because physics itself is your problem. You are trying to solve your physics problem. And of course, you need to know physics. And then you need to know computer science. That's the reason why when many students came to me and asked me what should they do with their minor, I always suggest them to take the computer science. I'm actually not being double standard, meaning to say, to me, it is important for you to take the computer science, because nowadays, even though you are not going to become a computational physicist, maybe you want to work with the industry, maybe you want to work with the other companies and etc. So if they know that you are computer literate, meaning to say you know how to program, you know how to code, you know how to use the computer, then it will be a big advantage. Because when you go to the school of if you go to the school of computer science, you will expect to learn C++. And I always say to my students that please learn C++, because C++ is the mother language. It's the mother of all computer languages. So most of the computer languages nowadays is due to C++. So Python itself was created by using C++. Okay, so Python is a super simplification of C++. It is a simplified version. So that's the reason why Python is famous, because it is easy to be used. So that's the idea. Okay, so always go for computer science. Because nowadays things are getting complicated. Even if you work at Shopee and then maybe you want to become the maybe Shopee wants to deal with the the stocks. So at the end of the day, it will be relying on computer science, for example, the artificial intelligence and whatsoever. So that's the idea. And then of course you'll be learning about the programming technique. For the data, you need to manipulate the data and visualize the data, and then by using the by using Python package. So meaning to say, let's say if you want to find the root of a polynomial, so you have the Newton-Raphson method, you know, am I right? Or we call it as the Newton methods. But the thing is, in this particular course, you are not going to write the algorithm, the Newton-Raphson method from scratch. What you do is you have to use other people's code, which is already registered under Python. So, and then you just call the code, and then you just use the code. That's it. It's about using the package. Later, I'll explain about using the package. So the course here will be conducted by two lecturers. Of course, it is me, even though I'm not wearing the spectacles. Maybe we should interchange this with Dr. Yoon, because Dr. Yoon is wearing wearing glasses. This is me. But the thing is, I'm my hair is curly, so this should be me. But never mind. It should be me and Dr. Yoon. So my part will be more on the programming basics, Python grammar, and then data visualization. So I'll teach you on how to plot the contour, and then you know that when you watch the news on the weather report, behind the presenter you have like a colorful plot. All right. So I'll teach you on how to produce that particular plot using Python. And then Dr. Yoon, he will be focusing on the numerical methods like numerical integration, numerical differentiation. So meaning to say, if you have a complicated function, then you want to integrate your complicated function. So you're not going to push yourself trying to become a genius, a math genius, trying to solve that. You work by using the computer. Okay. So later, you and Dr. Yoon will help you to discover more information on these numerical techniques. But my part is going to be more on programming. So you'll be learning about programming. So of course, this is a 100% coursework. So you won't be having any examination. Well, of course, it is quite weird if we do the examination. Because last time when I was in the computer science school, I took the C++ programming class, and then at the end of the day, I had an examination which require me to write the code. It is very painstaking, and then you have to think about the code and then write down all of the symbols, which is quite weird to me. So that's the reason why me and Dr. Yoon, we decided to do this as a 100% coursework. And then you have to do your coding, and then we will try to assess your coding, and then we will give marks based on that. So first things first, you have your project, and then you need to produce a report. So it should be just a simple report, and then I'll give you an example of the report. It should be at the end of the semester. Okay? So it will cost you about 10%. Okay, it is just yeah, of course, when you want to take up any course, you always have to endure with the assessment. Am I right? You are not going to learn without being assessed. So I hope that you are positive about this. Yeah. So me and Dr. Yoon will ask you guys, or we will set the grouping, and then you do the project with your group members as a team, and then you produce the computation, and then we will assess your project. And of course, we have two simple tests, which cost about 20%. So for before the end of the mid semester, which is my part, will cost about 10%, and then at the end of the semester, it will cost about another 10%. That part goes under Dr. Yoon. So normally we have the programming exercise, programming exercises. Okay, meaning you say every week we will assess you. Not really assessment, it's just an exercise. It is a pretty simple task. so that because we want you to code. You see what I mean? We want you to do the coding. We don't want you to attend the class and then when you leave the class and then you do nothing. So at least you can you are catching up with the topics, huh? You won't be putting everything at the end of the semester. Okay, so I think it's a good thing lah for you. So before the class ends, you will have the exercise. But the thing is, I'm trying to change this a bit because last semester, what I did was we had I asked the student to do the exercise um, at the end of each class. But now I'm trying to make it a bit easy. So meaning to say, I'll do the assessment, sorry, I'll do the exercises every week, once in a week. So because of, it is not easy for us to attend the class early in the morning. Same goes to me. And same goes to you as well. When I was a student, I know I had problems to wake up in the morning at 8 a.m. Yeah, it's normal. Of course, we for Muslims, we have to do the morning prayer, the subuh prayer. But, it is not easy to come to the class early in the morning. So given the flexibility, so I'm trying to take this as an advantage so that I'm doing the class online in the morning. And then I'm planning to start the class at 9 a.m. Okay. So the programming exercise will begin. You listen carefully. Yeah. Later, I'll put the information at the eLearn on eLearn. Okay. My plan is to have one exercise per week. Okay. And then it will be conducted on Monday. And then I will post the question at 8 a.m. and then you'll be given like 1 hour to answer the question. You do the programming code, and then you submit on eLearn before 9 a.m. And then 9 a.m. I will begin my lecture. Okay, I will begin my lecture to be safe lah, because I'm staying outside of Penang. So sometimes it is quite unexpected to have like a traffic jam like that. And then on Friday, I will try to see whether whether we can begin our lecture at 2:45 and then we will end early at 4:30 or 4:15. I'll see how. Because it depends on the situation. I'm afraid if there is a class before us. But I don't think so because on Friday it is after the Friday prayer. Normally after the Friday prayers, there won't be any classes. So I think it should be okay if we begin 2:45. I don't know whether you guys agree with me. So I will post the poll and then I'll see whether you guys agree with me. And then another thing is some of your friends are still not in the campus. Especially the second cohort, the second group. Well, it's okay. Never mind. You can attend the class. For those who are coming to the campus on May, you can come to the class online. I mean, you can virtually come to the class online. So that's fine. And then another thing that worries me a lot is on our face-to-face class. Because we have like 70 students, and then let's say if I take half of 70, so it should be like approximately 35 or let's say 40 students. I'm not sure whether we can have like penjarakan given the class is at DKE. If I'm not mistaken, the DKE is just a standard lecture hall, a small one. So I'm not sure whether you guys can fit in the class given the penjarakan. And then I know it is quite risky due to COVID. even though nowadays we are moving towards the endemic phase, but to me still, if you got COVID, still it is a scary thing, huh? So it is worrisome lah. So I'll see how, and then I'll try to discuss this with you on Telegram later, and see whether you guys agree to do the face-to-face on Friday. Because the reason why we are going to have face-to-face is because of this. Previously, we have some students, they kept on asking whether we are going to have a face-to-face class after this. And the reason why is because they want to have the I don't know how to say, the experience of going to the class is important. Yeah. Same goes to me, because I think it is important for you to attend the class, because even though the class can be conducted online, I don't know whether you guys agreed with me or not, but this is just my opinion. To me, it is important for you to socialize with your friends. The reason why I got many friends during my USM studies is because I went to the class. Otherwise, I won't be able to get as many friends, and then the only friends that I have will be the inside your cubicle. If you stay in Tekun, or if you stay in at Restu, normally you have a cubicle, am I right? Like a weird cubicle, one going down and one going up. Uh, so yeah, tak best lah. To me, it is not a good environment as well. And then when you do online class, especially when you are staying at home, it is different from staying at the hostel. For example, maybe early in the morning at hostel, you can just lying on your bed and then just pick up your books and then attending lectures without doing nothing. But at home, maybe your mom or dad, they will be like, oh, why are you not still, why are you still here? And then you have to help us during the morning routine or something like that. So that's the kind of distraction. I think it's normal. If you stay at home, then you have to do something lah. Okay, there will be distractions. So it is better for you to stay at the hostel. And then another thing is the reason why I got girlfriends during my USM studies is because I attended the class. All right. If you're not attending any class, then you won't be able to get a girlfriend. So that's the thing. So in order to balance between social and safety, that's why I decided to do the blended course. And also, the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm trying to gain some experience as well. Well, of course, you know that I'm a new lecturer as well. Same, both of us are the same. I mean, say I'm still a new lecturer, and then you are still a new student. Especially if you are doing your first year studies, we are having the same feeling, no? As for you, you are very intrigued, or you are very anxious about whether you are able to go to the class like the standard days. For me, I'm also worried with my lecture. For example, nowadays I'm doing the online lectures, but it is a different experience. When you go into the hall, then you meet your students face to face. Then I'm going to be a shy person. Because now I can only see your names, no? Ain Kistina, Ayun Shafika, Amira Shafia. But in the hall, I can see your face. Then it's going to be a different experience for me. So yeah, but never mind. That's well, I mean, it is common to have that kind of feeling. So I hope that you are able to are able to face the challenge. So never mind. That's the idea. And then next, the class timeline. So since I have changed my plan, so you don't have to follow the rule here. So because last semester, what I did was I did the lecture, and then after that we will do the exercises. But the thing is, now I changed the plan because of the timetable. They push ZCE111 to the extremes. You know, the meaning of extremes, meaning to say they put early in the morning at 8 a.m. and then on Friday they put at the end of the week, you know, from 3 to 5 p.m. So it is quite unconducive to me lah. Okay, but what to do? I have no choice. It has been given. The task has been given to me, and the timetable is also given automatically, so I can do nothing. Okay. Setting up your Python. Okay. First of all, before I assess you, before we begin our lecture, our first lecture on using Python, before we do the exercise, of course, you need to have Python with you. Well, essentially, yeah. I'm not saying that it is compulsory. Essentially, you need to have a computer lah. Okay, you need to have a computer. But I will not force you to buy one like the viral lecturer. It's okay if you don't have a computer, you still can do your coding online. At least you have a handphone. Well, of course, before you register this course, you know that it is a programming course. So at least you have to have a computer and or at least a handphone or something like that. But it is unacceptable. It is unacceptable if you own an iPhone 13. I'm not sure what's the latest number, iPhone 13, but you don't have any computer. That is unacceptable. And I would require, I suggest you to sell your iPhone and then buy a new laptop. So I think so that's the idea lah. Okay. You need to at least to have a handphone so that you can, because nowadays you can, we have like an online website which you can put your code there. Which have you ever heard about Google collaboration before? I'll explain to you about Google Collab after this. Not after this lah. During your first class, during your first formal class, you can put your code online and then you click the button on the web page, and then the server, you know, the computer on the other side, I mean in the network, it will help to execute your code, and then it will give you the output on the browser. So you need not to have a computer, but it is essential. Not essential. I mean, it is. Of course, it is better if you have a computer with you. Okay. And then, of course, there are many ways to install Python. The older days, you have to go to the Python website and then download, and then you can also use the Bash. You know, you ever heard about Bash? Bash is something for Ubuntu. I mean, for the Linux systems. For example, for example, the Ubuntu, and then you can have like you have another one. I can't remember the name of the operating system. When you can use Windows as well. You can download Python on Windows system. Maybe you go to the Python website. There are many ways to download Python. But here, I would suggest you to use Anaconda because it is a standardized way. It is a standardized, simplified way to install your Python. You don't have to do the coding with the command prompt in order to install your code, your Python. But here, you just download Anaconda, which is a software. It is an application, an EXE application. In Windows, we are using the EXE executables. So you install Anaconda, and then Anaconda you will have some menu, and then from there you can install your Python. When you install Anaconda, it will automatically install Python in your system. And then later, when you use packages, I'll explain you about packages later during the formal class. When you want to install, when you when you want to install a certain package, then you can use Anaconda easily. So you don't have to do the other way around, which is complicated. So you have to go to the Anaconda/Python website here, and then you just follow the instruction that I've given to you. If you have any problems in installing the Anaconda, you can always seek for help. Maybe you can ask your friends for help in Telegram chat, or you can ask me directly. I will assist you. Okay, so basically these are the steps for you to install Anaconda. These are the steps lah. First, you have to go to the Anaconda website, and then you have to choose your operating systems. At the moment, I'm using Windows, so of course I have to go to this particular link. So you have to check whether you are using the 64-bit or the 32-bit. Okay. These are the basics. Okay, and then maybe you are using Mac, so you have to use the installers here, or maybe you use Linux. So it's up to you. Select your appropriate installer. I think it's easy one lah. Well, I'm sure that before this you have installed many applications. Maybe you install games for guys, huh? So it is unacceptable. It is unacceptable for guys to not be able doing this, because you guys have the experience of installing games, no, in your computer. Installing a game is much more complicated than installing the Anaconda. Okay. If you play games, but then you say to me that you are not able to install Anaconda, then it is unacceptable. Unacceptable. So, of course, you click the next, and then click I agree, and then next, install. That's the idea. Now, run Anaconda. Okay, never mind. Once you, I'm not sure whether you guys have installed Anaconda before. Okay, I'll show you my Anaconda. Anaconda. Okay. Share. Yes, I will upload. I will always upload my lecture. So that you but now I will upload my lectures on YouTube. I want to be a YouTuber. No lah, I think it's easy for me to upload on YouTube because I don't know where to save my files. I'm not going to save on Wayback. So. Okay, now hopefully you can see my screen, and then once you have installed Anaconda, normally I'll just type in Anaconda. So it will appear the Anaconda Navigator. You just click on Anaconda Navigator, then you have to give some time for your Anaconda to run, so it will take some time. Okay. Well, Anaconda is something special to me because it will make things easier. Before the existence of Anaconda, we had to endure the problems on installing Python because there was no standard way of installing Python. So this is quite a problem. So we have to wait for some time. It is initializing. At the meantime, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, you can ask me. Have a look at the chat. Like and subscribe. So sounds great. About attendance. Well, of course, I will begin taking attendance. Normally, what I will do is I will put the Google spreadsheet, and then you have to write in your names, put your attendance. Later, I'll prepare the attendance sheet. And I don't really bother about the attendance, actually. Because last time, when I was in USM, normally the lecturers will take the attendance. For some reasons, some students, they did not attend the class, but then they asked their friends to take for them. So it is, for me, it is redundant for me to scrutinize on the attendance. So, but at least if I take the attendance, it is for the record purpose. Okay. So it is not a big deal, and I'll just put the trust on you. So if you come to the class, if you attended the class, if you watch my lecture videos, then if you want to register your attendance, then it's up to you. So here, when you run your Anaconda, later what you will see is something like this. You have the data lore, you have the Jupyter Lab. I don't know how to pronounce this, Jupyter or Jupyter. It's just called Jupyter Lab. The notebook, the Jupyter Notebook. You can try experimenting with these applications, yeah. But normally we will use the Jupyter Notebook, and then we will use Spider and Visual Studio Code. Since I am a Microsoft programmer, I mean an informal Microsoft programmer, so I'm quite used to the Microsoft Visual Studio. I'm not sure whether you guys heard about Microsoft Visual Studio. It's a software to create a software. it is a software to create a new software. So that's Visual Studio. So for some reason, the Visual Studio code looks like the actual Visual Studio. Let's say if I click launch, so it will appear something like this. This is an example of, hopefully you guys can see this, yeah? This is an example of a Python code. So here I am, this is my FYP project lah. Not my project, it's I'm supervising a student. I'm supervising a group of students. And then they are working on the neutron problems in a non-multiplying reactor. Okay, you can also use Python to calculate the mass required to create a nuclear bomb. Don't tell anybody. So that's the idea. This is the code. So it's quite a lengthy code. And then normally you just do your coding here, and then you will see some colors for to annotate which one is a keyword. I will explain to you later. And then you put your code in the editor, and then you can simply press the play button on the top right corner here. So now my code is running. Okay. So the above here, we have an editor for you to type in your instruction to your computer. So you do your programming, you coding here, you put your commands, you do whatever you wanted to do lah here. And then you write in Python language. And then next, once you have finished your coding, you just click the play button here, and then it will run your code. So the bottom panel here, this is the top panel, and then hopefully you guys can see the separator here. So the bottom here is your output. This is something that you should see when you press the play button. So your output will be here, and then for example here, I am the code here is to plot the number of neutrons at the various positions. So this is an example. So I have my space here. So this is an example of the visualization when you do the coding in Python. So you can see the contour plots here. You can see the how neutrons are behaving. So there are many neutrons over here, but there is no neutron at the edges. So that's the visualization. That's what I told you earlier. So you will learn on visualizing your data. So that's the idea. And then you can try to explore the other applications as well. You can use Spider, you can use the Jupyter Notebook. Basically, the Jupyter Notebook is just a simple editor where it will use your browser, and then you are going to do the coding on the browser, and then you press the play button. Let me show you a quick example before we end the class, okay? This is an example. So you should have your own code. So new notebook, which is Python 3. You just explore this here. You click the new file, click Python 3. And then here you have the input. So let's say if I want to print hello world, okay, print hello world. And then I click run. And then the output of your input number 1 here will be over here. So this is hello world. And then if I ask to calculate 1 plus 1, maybe a equals to 1 plus 3, 1 plus 3. And then next, another line of code is to print the value of a. So you just click run. So it is 4. So a is equals to 1 plus 3, and then print a, it is equal to 4. So basically it is using the browser instead of having you downloading the downloading the editor. Before you install the Visual Studio Code, once you have installed Anaconda, at this panel, you will see something like install. So before you, if that is your first time using Anaconda, you need to install Visual Studio Code first by simply clicking this particular button. Once you have downloaded and installed Visual Studio Code, whenever you run your Anaconda again, then here the button will appear launch. So this is an example, okay? Install. So I hope that you enjoy the class later. So I think that's all for today. Okay, that's all for today. If you have any question, you can keep on sending messages, sending messages on Telegram so that we can discuss. You can also send me messages at any time if you wish. Please don't hesitate to contact me, but I'll try my best to reply as soon as possible, because I'm a human too. Sometimes I need to do something, and then I might be replying you a bit late. And then, for example, these few days, there are many students keep on asking me questions, so I tend to reply a bit late because I'm trying to cater the other students. Okay. You have to install Visual Studio Code manually from Google. No, it's not. You have to you run Anaconda, you click the install button, and then it will automatically redirect you to the Visual Studio Code, and then you download the Visual Studio Code, and then it will do something. Okay, you well you can download it manually, but I don't know, it's up to you lah. To make things simple, you just click the install button. You'll send the it's not there. Visual Studio Code manually from Google, make it appear. It is not there. Oh, I see. It's a bit weird, yeah. You just send me the screenshot, and I'll see whether I can save you from this problem. I think you try to install this manually. Just try, okay? Try install manually from Google, and then try download it. Or maybe you can try the other options. You can use Spider. You can use Spider if you don't like Spider. You can use the Google just now, the Jupyter Notebook, because I will not dictate you on whether using this or that. So it's up to you. You choose what you want, which one you feel conducive to do the programming, then you just download it. Okay. But I essentially like Visual Studio Code because it is by Microsoft. and it tend to be a stable software. So I'll end the lecture now. So if you want to leave, you may leave. Then if you want to stay asking me questions, please carry on. Maybe you got class after this, yeah? So again, I apologize for being a late guy. I know it is not a good attitude, but the thing is, it is due to the traffic jam. So I can't do anything. It is unexpected, huh? So I apologize again for making you waiting about an hour, okay? So after this, morning class will begin at 9 a.m. That's it. I know you like it, okay? Okay.